We are live. Ha! Come on, E. Hey. Welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Hey. Who's that? Uncut cocaine. Zeno. That pure uncut cocaine. Let's go, man.
What is going on? Good morning, Chicago and the rest of the world. Welcome to the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. I am your host with the most, the man with the plan, the Scotty Pippen of podcast Hempin', Mr. Eric McLeod, and I am joined by the Titan of Team Tech, music mogul in the making, and the Rasheed Wallace of this situation, because you never know what he's going to do. My co-host, my brother, the homie, Big Stu.
Yes. Getting it right, bruh.
What's going on, Big Stu? What's going on?
Man, life is good, man. I'm in a good place today, man. How about you?
I'm in a good place. I love the bow tie. You represent to the fullest.
Man, you told me that you asked what a bow tie is that? And I was telling you how I be trying to chill, and you was like, nah, bring him. So the surprise is you never know what I'm gonna rock week to week. And this week, my lovely lady a couple of years ago grabbed this for me, man. She brought it home as a surprise, and it's one of my favorite bow ties. You hear them bars, man. You know I got bars.
I love it. She has great taste.
She does.
So I want to do a little bit of the how was your week, but I'm asking a little bit different this week. What happened this week that was on your radar?
Gee whiz, there are like 3 or 4 major things. I'm going to save one of them to the end, but Elon Musk, man, became the richest man in the world, man, outpacing Jeff Bezos. That was one.
Quietly, too.
Quietly.
Yeah, that was interesting. I saw that.
Second thing, so I think there were 4 things major. Bitcoin crash, man. Bitcoin with bananas this week, man.
Shout out to everybody who held on.
Yes, get in where you fit in, man.
That's right. Yeah.
The third thing was, the third thing that really got me this week was Tesla's stock price. Tesla's stock price was phenomenal, man. It was a great showing this week. It was like a beautiful dance, and we'll probably talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
And of course, the last and final thing that really kind of stuck out with me this week was, just what happened on Capitol Hill, bro.
That was something to behold.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
So, what about you? What were the things that stuck out for you?
Yeah, man, everything that you just mentioned was certainly on my radar. I was paying attention to all these things, the Bitcoin, and I definitely made that reflection about Bitcoin and Tesla. You know, shout out to the people, again, who held on to both because, you know, especially, and we'll talk about this more, but with Tesla, people were, you know, they made a lot of comments about Elon Musk and his credibility and his state of mind and all of that. And so now we see who was right and exact and who wasn't. So, you know, if you held on, great for you. And yeah, the Capitol Hill situation was really, really telling for some.
Yeah.
Some, right? But definitely interesting TV. I'll say that.
There were 2 other stories. The first black mayor of Boston, who is a woman. That was phenomenal. Also, the Georgia senator being elected, first black senator. Mm-hmm. And then I saw the face, and I'm not prepared today, but I saw the face and got the name of the woman, the black woman who led the research for the COVID vaccine.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how my week was. My week was a great week. It was popping. First week of the year, man.
I'm glad to hear that. So we want to thank you all for joining us today. We have a fascinating, riveting conversation that we're going to have today about, and the title of this episode is 10 things that they don't tell you about the stock market. And we're going to really approach this conversation from a lot of different angles, but we're going to just see what we come up with as we speak here. Anything you want to kind of talk about to introduce this topic, Big Stu?
The one thing I guess, for me is it's a lot more accessible today, and that you can get in and play at any price point today. So I think, just there used to be this talk, I guess, about that investing is for rich people and you can't play. But today, honestly, it may sound petty, but you can get in for $1.
Yes, you can.
On any stock. That's phenomenal. So this conversation is for anybody, man.
It is. And I agree with all those points. So before we dive in, I'm going to do a quick disclaimer.
Please.
And that disclaimer is really simple. We are not offering financial advice during this episode. This information is intended to be factual. We might say a few things about what we do, but we are not in any manner offering you any sort of financial advice. So please do not construe it as such.
You cannot come back. You cannot come back and will not come back and say Big Stu or Eric said I should do anything.
True indeed.
We are not telling you what to do at all.
We are not. So, as we do with many episodes, I'm going to start off with a couple actual factuals, and then we're going to get into it. So,
wait, Eric, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Before you do actual factuals, I'd like to take a moment just to let people know that before we get into it, can we just take a moment just to let people know to go visit our store?
Yes, sir.
Please go visit our store at and there should be a link there for you to do so.
I need that tea. I need that.
You need that tea?
Yes, sir. Gotta have it.
Here we go. We have this tea. We have the mug, the MSG mug. It's stylish.
I love that one. Yeah.
We have the MSG t-shirt dress.
Okay. It's my first time seeing that, man. I like that. Jump. Okay. About the copy for my lady.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Different colors. And then, of course, we got the baseball tee for the classic throwback. And, of course, we have our unisex hoodies that come in like so many colors.
So many flavors on those. I love that. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. So I just wanted to take a minute to share that. Please feel free to go over to our store and get some MSG merch.
That's right. That's moneysexgenxpodcast.com, and we have a link, merch store. Please get over there today, get you some merch. Betty Nelson says, "Oh, I love the t-shirt dress." Yes, I hear you. As far as the dress, I'm curious, what flavors do those come in?
I believe it's like pink and white. Not a whole lot.
Okay.
But a few. Pink, white, heather gray.
Okay. All right.
The white is really, really cute. The white is really, really cute. Yeah. And it's actually very, very affordable at only like $32.50.
That's a great price point. Okay. I'll have to get a couple of those for some gifts this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there we go. Okay.
All right, let's do it. Actual factual. So let's frame this up a little bit before, Stu, I want to say this. I hate when people talk about stocks or any type of investment when they just jump into the subject matter with no context, nothing to kind of put around it so that it's sort of easier to understand. So what we did is we put together a couple of facts to kind of frame this up. And these facts are really more about what is the stock market in the first place before we talk about what they didn't tell you. So let's get into this. So the stock market started in the 16th century, according to the history books, okay? From what I have researched, it is pretty agreed upon that it started in Amsterdam. I didn't know that. Amsterdam is one of my favorite cities, actually. I didn't know that it started 16th century in Amsterdam. The American Stock Exchange, so this is the 16th century. Now, the American Stock Exchange didn't begin until the 1790s. Okay, so it was a couple of hundred years later. Now, we know that the stock market now is actually a global marketplace with a value of around $95 trillion. And by most accounts, the average return in the stock market for investors is around between 8 and 10%. Okay. So I wanted to throw those facts out there, but sliding from the facts, let's talk about this. What is a stock? What is a market? And how does that market work?
Is that a question that you're asking me?
That's a question I'm asking the audience, but I would love for you to answer. What is a stock?
Well, as I know it, and I'm off the street, no formal education in stock investing at all.
Okay.
That's
probably better.
Yeah. A stock is a share of ownership in a company, whether that company is publicly traded or not. It's a piece of ownership in a company. Eric, please tell me, did I get that answer correct?
1,000%.
Hey.
We're going to keep this easy to understand and right and exact. It is a piece of ownership. Now, if you could do us the pleasure of explaining to the people, what is a market?
A market?
Yes.
This is okay. He just raised the stakes. A market is a place, a place where you can exchange ownership.
Okay, I like that. A place where you can exchange ownership. I would say as well, a place where you can buy and sell stuff.
Okay, you made it even simpler.
Yep. I've always been told if you're trying to explain something, it should be easy enough for a child to understand. So that's our goal today. Even though we're talking to a lot of different people, but we're going to keep this very easy to understand. Okay, so we got the shares of ownership in a company, and we have the place to buy and sell. Now, how does this work, Big Stu, from your definition or your understanding? So how does that place where you can get pieces of a company and you have active buyers and sellers, how does that work on a day-to-day basis? How would you explain that?
So you have where, and this is how I normally explain it. If I have the money and I want to take ownership, I can go to this market or this exchange, and I can give my money in exchange for a certificate of ownership, also known as a stock. Conversely, I can also go to this place if I have the stock and I want to exchange that certificate of ownership or stock for money.
That's right.
And so every day I can, in my Cardi B voice, make the money move.
Make the money move. There you go. All right. I love it. So now let's take it a step further. We're going a piece at a time here. So now let's ask this question. Why are companies interested in offering these pieces of their company?
Okay. All right. That's a great question.
Why?
It's a great way to fundraise. It's a great way for companies to get cash by opening themselves to the general public. When we're talking about publicly traded companies, that is.
That's right. Okay.
It's a great way to take in additional cash so you can grow your business or scale your business.
Okay. Perfect. Man, you're on 1 million. I love it.
Come through.
So let's bring this back to like everyday life. So a company is no different than you and I. Say you and I started a business out of our garage and we're like, you know what? We want to grow this business, but we don't want to use our own money for everything. Or we want to get access to more money than maybe you and I have. So maybe you and I have $1,000, but we need access to $200,000 in order to get this business where we want it to go. Would you say that that's the basic premise of why these companies are doing this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's that simple. It's like they want access to other people's money because they have things that they want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So we got that out of the way. Any other sort of foundational comments that you want to make on the premise here?
No. You got the premise. I hope everybody's got the premise down pat. I think you've done a great job of getting us there.
All right. So now we know what the stock market is. All right. So we actually took the time out this week. And if you have any questions, definitely get in the chat. We took the time out to create a series of slides to help with this conversation. We wanted it to be conversational, but we pulled together the 10 things that we thought, and there's millions of them, right? There's millions of things that people don't tell you about the stock market, but we pulled together 10 that we thought were important to discuss. And like I was kind of saying before, I want everybody to really think about this. You know, people, I feel from my experience, they're more inclined a lot of times to invest in real estate. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like when I talk to people and I ask them, why would you do real estate versus stocks? The answers I get a lot of times are they feel like they understood the real estate better. And so even in my own personal development, I know when I understand something or I feel like I have historical context, or really just the more I know about it, it makes me more comfortable to go in and start participating, right? And so part of the reason why we wanted to do this is because a lot of our conversations are geared towards the middle class, the middle class and the upper middle class. And guess what? One thing that a lot of people don't realize is the middle class and the upper middle class, most of their stock participation is through their job.
Yeah.
401.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's an interesting thing. Why do you think that is? That's the majority of their participation in the market.
That was my introduction to stocks. That was the first time I ever. Oh, we got a little feedback. That's the first time I ever held a stock in a portfolio was through my first job's company 401k, and I had no clue. All I knew is like, I'm saving for my retirement. Now this may take us off tangent a little bit, but it was also whatever I contributed to that savings, my company was also matching my contribution up to a certain amount per year.
Right.
But I saw it as free money.
Free money. Okay.
So I think the people would do it because it's you don't have to think about it. It's easy.
I can feel that. I mean, we've all done it. And I would look at it like this. It's no different than if I purchased a property tomorrow, a piece of real estate, and I gave it to you to manage. Right?
How so? Explain that.
Well, let's think about this. So when you have a 401k, somebody's managing your portfolio for you. You're typically not doing it. All you're doing is making a selection as to, do you want to be conservative, aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's a person or a company on the other side that's actually doing the daily management. And one thing I know for sure is most people, including myself before I knew better, you don't ask a lot of questions about what's going on in that portfolio. We assume that they got it faded. They're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I use the example of me purchasing a property and giving it to you and saying, hey, Stu, go ahead and manage this property. and we'll see what happens with the returns.
Now, the other thing too, if I, of my memory, when I sat down, they were investing in not necessarily stocks, but they are stocks, but it was all funds.
Mm-hmm.
All funds. So all groups of diverse stocks in packages.
That's right.
So you'd have a piece of Vanguard, Vanguard, 10T, I'm making stuff up, but
that's right.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what the difference is in these funds, but they're saying that they're big companies and this is what they do, so I trust them.
That's right. That's right. And hey, most of the people in our country do the same thing. So, and guess what? Of course, there's nothing wrong with having a 401k. There's nothing wrong with getting that free money that you were talking about. I think what a lot of people want to see happen, though, is that people kind of complement that with some additional stocks outside of just the 401k portfolio. Okay. Right? Because as you learn, you can go in and start making some moves on your own. Just like we talked about Tesla. All right, cool. Tesla's doing their thing right now. Do you have Tesla in your 401k? I've asked that question to hundreds of people and they don't know.
They don't know.
Right? It might be in the bundle and it might not be. So if you want to get some exposure to Tesla, you have to check and see if you have it already. If not, then you can go on your own and make those moves.
Let me ask you this question, man. This goes back to a season 1 question, and even episode 1, season 3. Poverty mindset. Why do you think these conversations are not popularized? Why do people continue to shy away from the conversations about money, prosperity, investing, stocks? Why would we rather? I'm asking them now. I'm just loading on questions in traditional stew fashion. You don't ask just one question. Boy, ask 3-4 questions at one time.
It's cool.
Like, why are we? Let me just stop there. Why aren't these conversations more popularized?
That's something to think about. I just feel like, from my experience, it's not viewed as a fun conversation, and that's funny because I feel like our conversation today is going to be fun, but I think the way that it's typically approached, it's just not fun. I think what's more fun for people is the conversations about how to get rich.
Damn.
You know what I mean? How can I become wealthy? You know what I mean? Which obviously stocks are one of the ways to do that. But when we see these videos on social media, it's about like this quick path to get rich.
Is there a quick path to get rich, Eric?
There could be, but it typically doesn't happen that way for people. It's usually day over day. It's like asking yourself, is there a quick path to becoming the best basketball player in the NBA? No. All of the greats that we could name, they had to go in there and do that daily work. And the reality is, a lot of us, we just don't want to do it. And that's cool. Some people just don't want to do that daily work of even having these conversations. It just feels like work to them, maybe.
Damn.
So, hey.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if it's any deeper than that, to be honest.
No, I think you're right. But we're going to have it because, quite honestly, man, at this stage in my life, this is a fun conversation. I enjoyed watching the market move. I enjoy, and look, let me put it on the table. I'm not rich. I mean, I go back and forth with saying that because sometimes I say that statement when it's convenient. I feel very, very prosperous.
Okay.
But it's not like I have hundreds of thousands or millions sitting liquid in the bank. Okay. But yeah, man, I like these conversations. These are the conversations we should be having.
Yeah. And it's fun for me too. And you know what? There's a lot of people that it is fun for. But even then, it comes back to doing that daily work.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it though. 10 things they don't tell you about the stock market. Yeah, number 1, we were just talking about how, you could have a quote unquote advisor. And this isn't said, this comment is not said to diminish anybody. but it's just the real absolute truth. So you could have a financial advisor, a real estate agent, any of these people, and realize that they're not actually an investor, right? So they're doing their job and all that. So say they're a financial advisor, they're telling you what you should do and this, that, and the other, but they're not investing.
They're not
they don't have the money to invest. I mean, you don't know people's situation, but what I would encourage people to do is if you have a quote unquote advisor, I would push them a little bit to see, are they actually an investor before you take recommendations from them? And maybe even ask, do they show you what those investments are?
Okay.
You know, that's not unheard of. Like, hey, you said you're a stock investor, you got a stock license and all this stuff. Can I see your portfolio?
Right.
Or you're a real estate person or whatever. Can I see your real estate that you have? You know, so
and is customary for some folks in that industry, they're the advisor, to not be offended by you asking these questions, right?
That's right. So I'll take that back. Some might be. You know, but it's not a crazy question. It's like, you know, you're an advisor. Can I see your stuff?
Okay. All right.
Yes or no?
All right.
All right. So that's number one. So check into that.
All right. Number two.
You're buying investments. You're buying businesses, not just stocks. Let's talk about this one. What would you say about that one? You're buying businesses, not just stocks.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because I like how, you know, you first of all, when you buy a stock, I like this because you now have a say so, good or bad.
Right.
So you'll see. I heard a story of a CEO from Chicago who was on at the Capitol Hill, and was on TV, spotted on TV, and the CEO was fired from his job. So sometimes these executives at a company can, you know, their behavior can affect the swing of a company's value.
Yes.
So you got to pay attention to that because that's all part of the business.
Part of the business. Yes. And, you know, I think sometimes it gets lost in translation sometimes when you buy a stock, because we use the word stock, that, this is actually tied to a complete entire business. And so because of that, I would encourage people to think about using this test. If this business were your uncle or your cousin, and they came to you with this business with the same level of profits, the same products, the same way that they move about and engage with the media, would you purchase or buy an interest in this company? Just use that real granular example. If this was your cousin or your brother, and you knew all the details of the company, of the business, would you purchase shares? And if the answer is no, then you got something else to think about. If the answer is yes, then you know what you got to do.
So your behavior as the leaders of the company, whether you are the CEO or the CFO or the chief information technology officer, marketing officer, HR, all of your behaviors play a role in how well or how poorly your stock, your company's value will perform.
That is, yes, sir. Absolutely. And you have to ask yourself just some real common sense questions like, what is the company even selling? I mean, when I first started, I would buy stocks. I didn't even know what your company did. Like, you have to ask, you know, some people, I understand we don't want to do research or, you just want to get in the game real quick. But ask yourself, what does this company sell? Like, that's a great question. What does this company sell? Sometimes it's not readily apparent what they sell. What do they sell? How much money are they making? And then you try to look into the future and make a determination of, do you think down the road this company is going to continue to make money or what's going to happen?
So I think that's also, you're making me now think about something that I always forget about when I'm investing. And I'm, again, in Big Stu fashion, I'm going to be very transparent. I always forget to set my financial goal with my investment.
Okay.
I sometimes tend to just jump in. I have an extra, 20, 50, $30, whatever it may be, $100, and I dump it in something in real time, but not ever really thinking about when will I, pull it out? When will I cash in, if you will? So I say that to say it's always important to think about what's your financial goal, what's your plan, what are you trying to accomplish financially by investing.
Yeah, true. I wanted to ask you, since you did give us that, like when you're doing that, do you do any sort of quick analysis when you're making that quick purchase, or do you just kind of go with your gut?
I have a method. I have a method.
I got you.
And so my method is I generally go in and I look at the stock chart and I look at the max on that stock, right? And I want to see just historically, as long as they've been publicly traded, how have they performed and how fast are they bouncing back from their recent lows? Okay. How long does it take them to exceed their previous highs, and how long does it take them to recover from their previous lows?
All right, Big Stu. Big Stu got the strategy, coming through with the strategy today. So
it's chess, not checkers, man.
Yeah, it's chess, not checkers. So yeah, that's great. Hey, if you're just now tuning in, this is the Money Sex Gen X podcast. You are here with myself, Mr. Eric McLeod, my co-host here, my brother, Big Stu. We are going through a short conversation about stocks, 10 things that they don't tell you. Number 2 was you're buying businesses and not stocks. Stu, what's number 3?
Number 3 is you don't have to be technical to analyze the market.
What? Are you kidding me? You don't have to be technical.
Well, that's, look, I tell this story to a lot of my students. I never brought home anything really higher than a C in math in school. From middle school all the way through, I think I avoided all the math I could, of course, until B school. There's certain math you can't avoid in business school. But I struggled through that. But I tell you right now, I'm almost like a human calculator today. And my reason that I shared that is because you do not have to be technical. If I can figure some of this stuff out mathematically, just addition, subtraction, so, you can figure it out. When I was in school, they frowned upon us using calculators, but it's not a day that goes by that I don't break out the calculator today. So if you can break out the calculator, use Google, and do some basic addition and subtraction, and even if you suck at addition and subtraction, you can still analyze the market.
Great wisdom. So, yeah, I want to add on to that too. So in the market, they have these 2 terms that you hear about most of the time that are used to try to get to the point of how do people make their decisions about what to buy. The first one is technical analysis. And the second one you hear is fundamental analysis. So the technical analysis is like when you see these people on TV with these 50 different computer screens and they're looking at all these charts and all of that. Those people, and it's actually a thing, like those are a certain type of person, right? They make their decisions based on the trends and the numbers that they see in these charts, these various charts. If the chart hits a certain point, they have different strategies that they use based on where the chart is. And it's a whole thing, right? But then you have people who are in the fundamental camp. Fundamental people, they really look more at data and research. Like, for example, a news report might come out about Tesla. Mm-hmm. They would read that news report and then go look at the different financial statements or perspective, whatever is out there, like whatever information is readily available, and then say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make my decision based on this. Mm-hmm. They're not looking at any sort of chart or anything technical. And so fundamental versus technical. And it's really more of a personality type or, a decision that you make about how you want to go about it. And then you got the third camp. Some people do a little bit of both.
Yeah. I think I'm old school and I'm still on the set it and forget it. But because I'm a little bit wiser today, I can and I know a little bit of what I'm looking at. So I tend to look at it a little more often. But I'm still old school. I'm not doing the day trading. I'm not looking at the flips and the flops and the blips and the blops and I'm not short selling. I mean, I'm giving some more advanced terminology here, but I'm old school enough where I just want to set it and let me check back on it in 10 years, 20 years, see what's up with it.
Okay. Yeah, that's that sort of Warren Buffett strategy, like just purchase and hold it. Now, but what I want to ask you though, and I've been thinking about this since we've been talking, but how do you make that initial decision though? So I understand you set it and forget it. That's cool. But like, how do you make that initial, what's the conversation that goes on in your head or what's happening to make you say, I want this particular stock?
Two things. First, is this something that I'm interested in? So I'm, if you're interested in fashion, then you want to invest, I would say, and this is not me giving any advice. Do not look, these are not, this is just my opinion. I have no formal training in this at all.
Right.
I have no formal training in stock investing at all.
Okay.
But first of all, if you're in fashion, then focus on what's happening in, I know, YKK zippers. You can invest in YKK. Everybody's got his YKK zipper. But I focus on what I'm interested in. I like tech. I like, unfortunately, I try to be diversified in my portfolio, but it's tech heavy. And then I'm like, trusted. What's the source? Who's putting me on? It used to be Jim Cramer. A lot of whatever Jim Cramer said, on I can't think of the name of that show on CNBC, but he had, and what's in the Business Insider? What am I reading? Betty says, do I believe in the company's product?
Yeah.
I don't know if that one plays so much to me. But I could see that, like, yeah, do you believe in the company product?
Yeah.
Do I believe that it has a long shelf life? Like, will it be around long? Is it at the beginning? Is it just starting to pop? Has it popped yet?
Okay.
Has it proven itself? Has it been here? Like, Bitcoin has been here more than 10 years. So it's it's going to be here, so things like that.
Okay.
What about you? How do you decide?
Well, I'm definitely a fundamental guy, but in terms of like thinking about how do I initially know, I have a lot of buddies. We text each other little recommendations or things to look at. I mean, I get these texts regular. Hey, fam, look at this. Or I'll send a, hey, look at that. And so that's usually the genesis of how I kind of go down this path of taking advantage of an opportunity. And what I like about how we do it is kind of like, I'm just telling you about it. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm not telling you, I'm like, yo, Scott, take a look. You might want to take a look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that.
Where are you getting that from? Are you reading something and you read something and makes you say, or did you watch a report? Did you see a video? Did you see the product in action or something? How did you initially find out? How do you normally initially find out?
Usually with me, it's usually from reading an article. So, I should ask my other friends that, like, how are you getting this initial information? But for me, it's usually reading something. And it's usually something that's not even about that.
Yeah.
It takes you there.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like, I wasn't reading this article for that, but now it's here. That information was presented just in sort of a matter of fact way, or because it made sense in the article and now it's taking me somewhere else.
I like the Wall Street Journal and Business Insider. You know why I like them? Because they are really, really good at peeling off the layers behind something that seems like relatively trivial, right? Like, Dr. Boyce Watkins is starting to do it more. Like, I like how they'll take Dr. Dre's aneurysm, right? And then they start to talk about, what drove the aneurysm. And then you find that they're talking about some experimental drug,
right?
Some biotech company that is leading the effort in some area. And for me, it's like, oh, let me check that company out.
Right.
Yeah,
that's dope. I like that.
Yeah.
For me, it'll be something similar to that, but it'll be like, okay, this person had an aneurysm, and right before it happened, he had the JJS camera that he was shooting a bit. Like, oh, word, like what's that? Like you said that something happened to him.
Right.
JJS camera. I didn't know about. I wasn't up on that. Right. So yeah, I like that. I read Harvard Business Review a lot.
Okay.
Me knowing my younger self, that's pretty funny. But I read Harvard Business Review because they get a lot into the behaviors of some of these CEOs in some of the companies that we may be investing in. Just different anecdotes, and sometimes you'll get an article written by one of these people. So I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Okay. So
crazy. Let's go, man.
Let's do it. What are we on? 4?
We're going to number 4. And number 4, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Number 4 says, buying and holding is a thing.
Buying and holding is a thing. What do we mean by that? Buying and holding as opposed to buying and selling, right?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the point like, look, this ain't the day trade. You ain't looking for the one-time big pop. Look, if you put $1,000 in Tesla this week, and it basically went up 33% this week, your 1,000 now is like 30, 1,300. Great. But that's not the long game. We're going for the long game. You called it Warren Buffett, but I like Ariel, John Rogers.
Yeah,
slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, he's really big on that for sure.
Slow and steady. I think that's their tagline or something.
Yeah, for many years, I believe. Yeah,
slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. Warren Buffett said something one time that made me adopt that, kind of be familiar with that mindset. He said, if you're not willing to purchase a stock and hold it for 10 years, what's the point?
Dang.
And I was like, yo, what do you mean what's the point? Like, I didn't know that there was any, like, I never even know that you could think about it that way. What I like about him is like, he'll say something really simple and just stop talking. So it's like, you got, the burden is on you to kind of figure out, well, why did he say that? No, so yeah, it's a thing. And so in that vein, you got to ask yourself this, right? So if you're going to buy something and hold it, one of the easiest layups that you can get with a stock is dividends. So that was because I'm a person that will ask. So if somebody said this to me, I'm going to say, well, why? Well, one reason why would be because if you earn a dividend is a payment that you're receiving from the stock, right? So the stock has made a profit. They're giving you some money back as a shareholder. If you're going to continue to get in, so it's income. So if you're going to continue to get income from something, some would say, why get rid of it? So it's one thing to hold the stock and the actual price of the stock might go up. That's great. That's cool. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get income.
Okay.
So what we're suggesting here is that one reason to hold would be because, yeah, I'm getting appreciation and I'm also getting some income on a regular or semi-regular basis.
All right. So I cheated a little bit, Eric. I read through your slides, all the slides already. I perused them. I glossed over. And one of the things that I'm just now realizing I didn't see in there, at least for me. So I just came to the realization that my investments right now, my investment portfolio is not for me.
Who is it for?
It's for my heirs. It's for my beneficiaries.
Okay.
It's not even for me.
Fair question, because it could have been for anybody. You'd be surprised what answers you get back on that. Yeah, okay. It's for your heirs.
It's for my beneficiaries, man. For my children, man.
Okay.
You know, and then hopefully maybe we'll have some time to go into realized versus unrealized gains.
Yeah, maybe we will. No. But I want to ask you this. So you made that statement, but what was your thought process in regards to this conversation? So you were saying like it made you think about why do you even have a stock portfolio?
No, it just made me think about long-term buying and holding.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
For the long term. It's like, God willing, I get another 20, 30, 40 years out here, God willing. And so what I have now, what does that look like in 20 years, 30 years from now? I've seen some amazing stories. Like, if you put $100 in Netflix, 19 years ago, today, you've probably got $500,000. Mm-hmm. If it's not $500,000, maybe it's like 50,000. If you put $100 in Netflix, I think you got 50,000 today, 19 years later. It's a great investment for the long term. And if something were to happen to me, right? If my paperwork is in order, then my beneficiaries, are left with something more than having to do a GoFundMe, right? So they have something that's part of starting to create generational wealth. They get a head start.
That's it's a real comment, but it makes me think about something I used to talk to people about. I used to tell people that you need to be selfish when it comes to thinking about any of this, because you are a rare bird in the sense that you actually are doing this with your family in mind. Many people could care less about that. Mm-hmm. I've actually had people tell me I don't want to leave my family a dime because I don't trust what they're going to do with it, et cetera, et cetera. So what I started doing, people were saying, you know what, let's just be selfish. Think about yourself, right? So you get a dividend producing stock or a number of them, you will be receiving a lot of income. And then we can work outward from there. Because for some people, that's the best motivation. It's like, yeah, I don't know what my kid's going to do with these stocks. I need to get this money. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's get the money for you then. Fine. Until we figure it out.
Okay. All right.
So, but for some people, and the reason why I bring this up, if you're out there listening, keep it a buck. If you don't really care about your family getting it, don't use that. Don't let that be a reason not to do it.
Right.
You can do this and make sure you benefit, or whoever else you got out there will benefit. He has a question here. Is life insurance a form of stock? You want to take that one?
So life insurance, yeah, I'll take a stab at it and, you clean it up for me. Life insurance is not a form of stock.
Right.
Because we know a stock is a piece of a company.
Right.
But life insurance could be considered, depending on the type of insurance, it could be considered an investment tool.
There's nothing to clean up. You're 1,000,000% correct. You are 1,000,000% correct. I couldn't have said it better.
Okay.
There are two different vehicles that could have the same goal. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's keep it moving.
All right. So number 5 says many successful investors buy after prices drop.
This is one of my favorite conversations to have. So let's think about this. So we know the market goes up and down. Sometimes it's more volatile than other times. But say you own Coca-Cola, for example, and today, or when you wake up in the morning, it's trading at $50 per share. All right, cool. The day goes on. There's some news that comes out about a war or some other event. Maybe spending is down or whatever. Unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is something that directly ties to the performance of the stock market a lot of times. So say a report comes out about unemployment rates rising. Okay, so they're going up. And then consequently, the Coca-Cola shares dropped from $50 a share down to $41 a share. Would you personally, Big Stu, take that as an opportunity, or would that scare you and say you probably say, no, I don't want to mess with that? 50 down to 41 in one day.
Well, I'm gonna play your game a little bit. Initially, it's like, oh crap, I'm losing money. Let me get out. Let me stop the bleeding.
Okay.
But imagine Ralph Lauren having a blowout sale.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. I love that.
All right.
Yeah, you walk in, there's a blowout sale going on. 60%
off.
Can't pass. Yeah.
And even if they are going out of business for life, would you go buy as much as you could, or would you say, they're trash, they're going out of business, they lost money, they're giving their stuff away, I don't want it?
Well, you know me when it comes to the Ralph Lauren. I'm going in there and gonna make it happen. You know, I don't even know if I could restrain myself if I knew they were in, because if it's 60% off and they're going out of business, it's probably gonna go lower than that. Might be 80. So yeah, I'm gonna go in there and make it happen for sure.
But in this case that you described with Coca-Cola and many other companies that are traded openly on the market, they don't go out of business like that. Like, they have a drop, but they're likely to still be there tomorrow. So I see it as a temporary sale on your favorite product.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I see it as a temporary sale too. And sometimes that temporary sale could last for a while. I mean, remember when COVID first hit the scene, you know, the market was down for a minute. You know, to the point where some people were like, yo, I don't know if it's gonna go back up. But we know from history it always ends up going back up. But emotionally, and we're gonna talk about emotions a little bit later on, but emotionally, some people just can't take that risk. They can't go there mentally to believe that it's going to actually go back up. So they pass.
So I think about those people, anytime somebody says, you know, oh man, the market is going down, I'm like, look, so while the market is going down on your end, somebody eating off the market, somebody eating off the market. And we saw, what was the market going to go back up? But we saw what Netflix was doing and Zoom was doing and Hulu or Disney. And it's like, how is Disney going up? How is Disney surviving? And all their theme parks are down because they got ESPN and they got Hulu. And so while you thinking that is down, I advise you, I use that term very, very loosely. I don't advise you to do anything, but as you're thinking about, I don't advise you to do anything.
Big Stu is not advising you at all.
I do not advise you. But what I do is, when I see that a particular side of the market is going down, I'm looking for where is it going up?
Okay.
And how can I get in on the ups?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, what you have to think about is that's where doing your research and all this other stuff comes into play. Because it's like, if you're doing your research and you're looking around and you're kind of doing your analysis, that's the word we don't want to forget about. Then you may be able to understand, hey, it's down. So it is going to go back up. Let me go ahead and cop this while it's low. Because once I kind of understood this, it made sense. It's like, why would I purchase it at $51 or $50 when I can get it for $41? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, we don't even do that in real life. If you walk into a store and see a bow tie for $80 and you know you can get it for $70, why would you waste $10?
Yeah. And
no different here. It's the same thing.
Now we're talking a different kind of strategy. What if you know you could probably get it lower, but what if you don't have the time or you don't care to wait for it to go lower? but you anticipate it to go much higher than where it already is. So you can still get in now and take advantage of future increases in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah. Or if you want to play the day trading thing, you might be a person like, nah, I'm gonna take advantage of it tomorrow when it go back up. So like, and people do this. There's nothing wrong with say. So let's go back to the $50 example. Let's go back to this. So it's $50 a share. It drops down to $40 in one day. The time frame of it dropping back down really doesn't matter. It doesn't. Who cares? It's $40, but it was $50. There are people out here who make their money by they'll go in and buy 100 shares at $40.
Yeah.
Hold it for another day or so when it goes back up to where it was or higher.
Yeah.
Or even in the middle. It might go from 40 to 45 and they immediately sell and make a profit.
Quick money, free money.
People do that all day, every day that the market is open. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's some quick money, man.
Now, do you consider my East Coast brethren, do you consider investing in stocks gambling?
What a fantastic question, man. I've had that conversation with so many people. My father specifically will tell you, and hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing this, but Dad, I'm going to share it anyway. He says that, and he's participated in the market, but he considers stock investing as gambling. And what I would say to that is, it could be. It could be gambling. Could be gambling.
I'm learning you more and more, and I see how you roll.
It could be. It could be gambling.
So let's say it's gambling. Let's say it's CeeLo.
Yep.
Let's say it's crap. What are some side bets in stock investing? What are some side bets? I know what my point is.
Okay.
Right? I know my point is a hard foe if I'm shooting craps.
Sure.
So what are some side bets that you can think of? I don't know. Maybe we could table.
No. Let's do it. No, we're going to talk about it. I want to do one thing before we do that, though. I want to go back to something real quick. We're going to go back to this because that's an important question that you're asking. But I want to take it a step back real quick. That's why you kind of see me looking around, because I want to make sure I don't forget this. I want to talk about when is it gambling, real quick.
Okay, when is it?
We put that out there. When is it gambling? Okay, so it's gambling to me. This is my personal opinion. When you are making decisions in the market with no analysis, there's no fundamental analysis. There's no technical analysis. So you don't know anything about the company. You don't have probably don't know what the products are. You just aren't armed with much information, and you go in and you start making moves. You start buying, you start selling and shaking and baking, but you do not have any knowledge to make an analysis with. You're gambling.
Let me add to that. That, and if you are using money that you need, if you are using money that will make or break you, it's a gamble.
Now, I agree with you. So now there's people out there who will say, well, wow, that doesn't make sense because people gamble on horses and they do a ton of research on the horse. What would you say about that?
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I personally see it as very, very similar to riverboat gambling, to horse betting, to, shooting craps. Okay. It's a game of chance, but with a little bit of research, the odds, is always depending. I think it's a safer bet. I think it's a safer gamble in stocks.
Let me push on this a little bit because I'm really curious. When you used the word just now, what did you really mean by the gamble, though? What are you really saying?
You're taking a chance with your money. You're taking some money on a chance to come back with more money, and there's a chance you might not.
So are we saying that? So would you say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, are you saying that the stock market is a gamble then?
Absolutely, 100%. I personally believe, Big Stu says, Professor Stu, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, depending on how you know me, says, I believe, yes, it's a gamble. It's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that you're going to win.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a gamble. Okay. It's a gamble.
It's like life, huh?
It's a life. Yeah, it's a real thing. Okay. But I like the odds.
All right. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, hey, I thought about this as you were talking, right? It's like I would liken it to this, and I'm horrible at giving these sort of analogies or comparisons, but you have a child, right? We both have children. We both have several children. You can do this for your child. You can do that for them and put them in Juilliard and this and all this different stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you or I do not know how your child is going to turn out. You don't. You can put them in a position to be successful, and there's nothing wrong with that, but still, who knows? And so the stock market, to me, is not that much different than that.
Now, I hope that our followers don't use this as a reason to not. Look,
it might.
I'm on a mission right now. I'm trying to get as many of us people, Black Americans, to start investing in stocks.
Yeah,
I'm trying. I just want you to get in the game. I want you to get in the game.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, so let's go back to the kid example. Again, here's the other side of it. The more you know about your child, the more successful you can be with your child, right? So like, if you got kids, and so I'm gonna clean that up a little bit, but I think it's good to see both sides. Like, okay, if I don't spend any time knowing my child, or I don't really pay them any attention, the success level drops now, right? So as with anything in life, I think our point to this entire conversation is there are things that you can do, all the things that we've been talking about, to improve your chances of success in any type of investing. Stock, real estate, all this stuff.
Well, let's go back to number 6 then, and we'll come back to that gambling scenario later, side bet question later. Okay. We'll come up with the side bet question.
Yeah, we need to talk about that before we get off.
There are some side bets, right?
We need to talk about that.
All right.
Sure.
All right. So,
all right, number 6. All right, and let me do this real quick. You are rocking with the Money Sex Gen X podcast. This is season 3. Can you believe it? Season 3, episode number 2. And we're talking about the 10 things that they don't tell you, middle class, upper middle class, about stocks. And I'm here with Big Stu, and we are on number 6.
Number 6 says, trading is a good way to learn mastery of your emotions. What were you thinking about when you came up with this mastery of emotions thing?
Hey man, this is some real stuff we're getting into now, Stu. I'm trying to tell you. What did I think about? So you're in the market, right? You got $10,000 in the market, and your stocks are doing well. They were doing well yesterday, and today they are all down, and your portfolio is currently worth $4,000.
You mean $6,000 in one day?
You're down 6,000. Now, we just talked about how market swings have to be analyzed now. Yeah. But what do you think the average person is going to do? And I got people in my family to this day, they do this every time in the stock market. When they're down to 6, it's time they're going to start shaking and baking.
Panicking, they sell it.
what's the first emotion that's going to rise up that you might have to suppress?
Fear.
Fear. Don't get scared. So I learned early on that this was a way, by me continuing to participate in the market, by me learning how to suppress those fears and anxiety, that I could learn how to control my emotions in the market and just in life. Because even I don't care how sophisticated you are, everybody had this time period where it's like the market is down, you get scared, and you, like Latoya Tyler said, you sell. You like, nah, I'm not losing all my money. I'm about to get this 4,000 and keep it moving. And that is something that can be mastered, because once you let yourself stay in the market for a while and things go your way, the prices go back up, you begin to learn that discipline and patience can be your best friends in this game. Discipline and patience. Trading is a good way to learn to master, not just keep in check, but actually master your emotions.
That's interesting. I wanted to say also in that scenario, what I was thinking, I'd want to think about how much cash did I put up before it got to 10? Did I put up 10 and then I lost 4 and now it's at 6?
Right.
Or did I put up 2 and it got to 10 and now it's at 6?
That might be easier to stomach, right? Because you're already up.
Right.
I mean,
if I put in 10 today and then tomorrow it's at 6, I'm pissed.
No doubt. Yeah. And I feel like the emotions still come into play, because like, say you put in 10, right? And you're up. You could be up even more if you got the discipline. You know what I mean? Right. If you can just wait it out a little bit longer, you might be up triple what you initially put in. You know, that's out there. So yeah, something to think about. Now I'm gonna tell you personally. Let me share this personal thing that I did to master my emotions with stocks. I used to trade something called binary options.
Okay, never got into that.
Yeah, and this is going to tie into when we get back into the way you can hedge and all that. But I'm going to just say this. Options are a way you can hedge, right? But I'm not going to go into that right now. But I'm going to say this. When you trade binary options, you're on a very short time frame. Like sometimes you are making trades within like a minute time frame. So things are going really, really, really fast. And when you first start doing this, it's like an adrenaline thing. It's like, oh, I only got a minute, and you're trying to figure out where's it going to land. It's super fast. And I made so many mistakes in that super fast time frame that I can't tell you how many mistakes I made. But over time, you started to learn, okay, you need to follow the steps, regardless if it's a minute time frame, if you got an hour. And it'd be cool to see the difference between when you had a minute or an hour, for example. So like going into the regular stock market is nothing. If you've traded options, binary options before, and you're in those short time frames, going into the regular, that's super easy.
Yeah.
You would feel like you have all the time in the world versus you only having 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put that out there. It's something that people can think about. If you're thinking about getting a little bit more disciplined emotionally, take a few dollars. I'm suggesting this, right? I'm not advising you, but I'm suggesting you take a few dollars and play around with trading options, binary options in those short time frames, and see if it helps you.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We're at number 7.
Number 7. Let's do it.
And number 7 says, the market assumes you're dumb money.
Dumb money.
What is dumb money, man?
Nobody wants to be called dumb, right?
What's dumb money?
Dumb money is what the market assumes that you are. So you have retail investors and you have institutional investors. The assumption from the institutional investors, because they do this for a living and that's pretty much all they do, and they're managing all these different people's money, they look at us on a retail level as not being armed with information, just doing stuff, using emotions and this and that. It's like they look at you as just making uninformed decisions in the market. And I'm going to tell you something. So we've had a rise of apps like Robinhood and Acorn and all this stuff. Many people say that those apps have created a rise in dumb money. And they're saying that because it's so easy now for you to get in the market. You know, all you got to do is download the app, make a quick transfer, and you're in. You know what I mean? You don't have to do any analysis. You don't have to talk to anybody. And we're going to get to this in another slide, but like, the path is like so laser fast now from the time that you make the decision that you could be in the market in like 5 minutes. And so that is considered dumb money. People consider that dumb money because it's like you're just doing stuff. That's the equivalent of me just saying, oh, you're just doing stuff. You're not really thinking.
And that's about to change the game, man. So shout out to all the POP. I think it's called POP apps. Peer, but like apps like Cash App and Zelle, for example. Shout out to them because they are revolutionizing the game banking. Shout out to the folks that whoever decided to come up with cryptocurrency, alternative forms of currency, and these direct to consumer investment platforms. Because to your point, you know, you might be able to catch a Bernie Madoff sooner, or the public, the people, the street. And in this term, I'm not even talking just Wall Street. I'm talking about the people on the street may be more forgiving to a CEO's indiscretions, right? And then obviously they can take companies. They can help companies' value rise much faster in some cases than the traditional brokerage houses might be able to due to varying forms of bureaucracy within the firm. If the street speaks, and if the street says DoorDash is where to go, you know, and DoorDash is where to go, and they don't care about all of that, you know, what they got in Series A, Series B. They don't care about all that stuff. It's like the street said DoorDash is better than Uber Eats. DoorDash wins. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
So those applications are giving people free stuff. Yeah, so like Robinhood.
I don't want you to mistake what we're saying. I love those apps.
Yeah,
they're great. You know, we're just really talking about the perspective because what Stu, back to what you were just saying, it's like, so the market said DoorDash was better than Uber Eats. They're depending on you to just go along with what they said.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. It's like, oh, they dumb. We said DoorDash was better. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the key thing that we got to keep in mind is we're not dumb. And anybody can analyze and do an analysis, as we talked about, right? You don't want to do the technical analysis. That's fine, but you can do fundamental. You know, you read the news reports and watch the news and all that stuff. Anybody has analysis tools at their disposal. Take advantage of them.
Facts. All right, we're number 8.
Number 8.
It used to be much harder and cost more to purchase stocks.
So why did we throw this one in there? We threw this one in there so people who are younger may not know this. I don't really hear this being talked about it much anymore, but because of Robinhood and because of Acorn and these different apps, it's like we just said, it's super easy to get in. Now, going back to Stu's comment about what can you do to kind of hedge, right? Wait.
I'm sorry, Eric. I'm sorry. You threw a word out there that most people is not a common word.
Oh, okay.
I never used that word. I never used that word. My question was, you know, are there side bets?
Side bets, okay.
And then you use the term hedge.
Okay, so we're going to get into that now. So, I'm using the word hedge, which is another word for, you could use it to say side betting, or you could use it to, what's the way I can say this word? Make an assurance that you're going to be okay. All right.
Is hedge, would you say a hedge is like leverage?
Yeah, but that leverage is a loaded term in the financial world.
Okay.
That means a lot of different stuff because it can mean debt. It can mean like you're borrowing. It can mean a lot of stuff. So I would rather just say you're trying to make sure you're going to be all right.
All right.
Yeah, like that. Okay. So now this goes back to our number 8. So one of the things that you can do so much easier now because of technology is trade options. Options is a way to sort of side bet. And it takes some analysis, right? So let's go back to, we were talking about Ralph Lauren a little bit earlier. So we always assume that the conversation is just going to be, if I buy Ralph Lauren, is it going to go up or not? That's one conversation, but it's not the only conversation that you can have. Another conversation that you can have is I think Ralph Lauren is going to go down. So I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but you can bet against the stock. You know, I'm using the word bet because, again, we don't know what the market is going to do. But like you can determine in your analysis that the stock is going to go down and not up. And so now, even in these apps like Robinhood and other apps, you can go in and purchase some options that are basically saying, I think it's going to go down at this price during this time frame. And you don't have to go through a broker. You don't have to talk to anybody on the phone. None of that. You can do that right there on your phone. And that's a fantastic thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your side bet again, another thing that you can do, and this gets kind of sophisticated at times, but it's like you could have a position on a stock and then take a different position on the same stock. So you might own a Ralph Lauren stock and then also be side betting with an option saying, well, but I still think it's going to go down. So I'm going to do this other trade over here just in case so I can limit my exposure. So it's like, yeah, I feel good about it, but I still think it might go down. So I'm gonna place this trade over here. Those are some of the ways that people side bet. And it gets really, really minute because there's so many different things that you can do. You can play with the time frames and all this different stuff, but options are a way to side bet and also bet against a company.
So limits, stops, those are kinds of options.
Limits and stops are types of orders that you can make.
Okay, but an option is the bet on you can profit on the company losing money.
Yeah, they get into things. I don't want to get too technical. Calls and puts or something that everybody should.
Latoya's she's our.
Latoya got it. Applying a call or put. Yeah, so a call or put. Research calls and puts, but those are the types of orders that you can, the types of options that you can buy depending on what you think is going to happen, what you think is going to, or how much you want to limit your risk on a specific position or shares that you own. So yeah, those are ways to side bet. Now, but out of this conversation, the main thing that I want people to know is not so much the side betting. I want people to understand that you can bet against a stock. I just think that's important to understand because I always just hear, well, I don't know if it's going to go, I don't want to purchase this because I don't think it's going to go up. Great. You don't think Coca-Cola is going to go up? Bet against it.
Right.
You can do that.
That's dope.
Your app. And one thing about Robinhood specifically, they break down what all these different things are in detail in the app and the consequences of you doing this. And if you do this, how much would you potentially lose? They get really granular so you could really understand what you're doing.
To be informed. We want you to be informed. Let's go to number 9.
Number 9.
Investing in things you know about can be a great strategy.
Yeah, this is another one of those common sense things. It's like, say you're into esports, for example, and Stu and I are not into esports. You would right then and there, you would have an advantage over us in going in and finding esports stocks and locating these types of companies because it's something that you engage with on a regular basis. You would know probably the names of the companies or the names of the technology that they produce. You could go in and make something happen from a very well-informed decision. Or say you know a small pieces of information, you don't know everything. you would have a quicker path than maybe Stu and I because you know something about it. We talked about the Ralph Lauren and different things like that. Audi is a company that I really like. I like their cars. So if I'm driving an Audi, for example, or I'm driving a Mercedes, I could go in and probably more readily get a handle on what's going on with that company on some level than somebody who didn't engage with that brand at all. And so that's just something that can give you some calmness about going into the market. Go in and find the stuff that you wear and that you like and start with those companies.
Mm-hmm.
Your bank, for example. Maybe you do business with Bank of America. Go in there and look for Bank of America stock and see what's going on. I mean, you have some experience with the company. So yeah, that's a great strategy. And obviously you can go off from that foundation, but it's a good place. It could be a good place to start.
All right, let's go to number 9. Well, this is number 9. Let's go to, are you ready for our number 10?
Drum roll.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah, number 10.
This is very, very interesting.
So what we got?
Very, very interesting. Number 10 says, no one knows what the market will do.
No one knows what the market will do.
No one knows what the market will do.
We saved that one for last because to me, it's the most important one. 10 things that they don't tell you about the stock market.
No one knows.
On my list is number 10 on this list, but it's number 1 in my reality is no one knows because that's the honest to God truth.
Hey, listen, I'm going to come back to LaToya's point. To your point, man, at the end of the year, there was an article that I read that speculated guessed with some intense research. They came to a conclusion. They speculated.
Educated guess, huh?
Educated guess. But they speculated that Tesla would reach 800 by the end of 2021. Yesterday, Friday, I should say, Tesla closed at 880.
Yeah.
So the educated folks are saying one thing. By the end of 2021, we expect that Tesla stock price to rise to about 800. And in the first week of the year, Tesla's price is almost at 900. No one knows what the market will do.
They don't. And you know what I love about this? Latoya says, agree with number 10,000%. Yeah, true indeed. I mean, this is what I love about the market. There's always two sides to the conversation. You got the bears and the bulls. The bears are the people that are basically saying, nah, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going down. They're saying all these projections and this and that. I don't think it's going to work. And if you're thinking about going to the stock market, always look for both perspectives. Because like Stu was saying, these people were saying, oh, this and that. But there was always an alternative perspective out there. You just might have to look for it. Then you got the people who are bullish. The bullish people are the ones that are saying, yeah, it's going to, yep, the projections are good. The product is going to be dope. Everything is going to be good. So we're basically telling the market that, yeah, you need to listen to everything that they're saying, and it's going to work out. But again, you got the bear saying no. So that tells you right there that nobody knows because you always have two different perspectives. You don't know who is right until later.
Wow.
So please keep that in mind. So when you're dealing with these advisors and all these little people, I don't care who it is. It could be your mama, your daddy, whoever it is, like a person that you really respect.
Right.
You can still respect them, but you also have to respect the fact that your mom and your daddy or your girlfriend or whoever, they could be right, but they might not be, Stu.
That's right. That's right. That's right. What an informative conversation today, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I want to get to this one other comment that Latoya had. And you all out there, if you're coming in late, this is the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. We are having a conversation. We're just kind of wrapping it up about the 10 things that they don't. And we need to talk one day about who is they.
Who is the they?
Might not get into that today, but they don't tell you about the stock market. And Latoya had this really great comment. She said, I like to use a website named Morningstar to research companies. Yes, yeah. Morningstar is dope. And I believe Morningstar is based in Chicago.
Morningstar is based right here in Chicago. One of the most boringest companies I've ever visited. Wow. But one of the most important companies, obviously.
Very. I like the way they present the research. I like the way they present the research. Is very straightforward.
They are great.
Organized. Great.
They are great. But if you're looking for excitement and for them to turn up and it to be lively,
yeah, you gotta not the one.
I say that because I took some students on a field trip to Morningstar. It was one of the worst field trips I got to take.
They were hot. Like, why you take us to this? Yeah, I can see that.
They did. They were not happy about that, but that's how I felt about Morningstar. I was like, Morningstar is one of the most important companies in finance, in economics, in this country,
in the world,
in this world. And
you know what, man? That makes me think about something else that I want to bring up. I think somebody that does a good job of providing ongoing commentary about stocks is Dr. Boyce.
Boyce Watkins.
Yeah, he will. I get emails from him, and I'm sure you do too. He'll email you and be like, here's my thoughts about Tesla today.
Yeah.
Or he might be like, Coca-Cola is tripping. Yeah. See what I got to say. And you get an email. So all you got to do is open up the email and watch the short video. And yeah, you might not agree, but it's good to kind of see like, okay, well, what is he basing this on? And he's a finance professor, so he's going to give you some meat. Yeah. But it's a cool way, because you asked me earlier, how do I find out? Sometimes it's through Dr. Boyce. I'll be like, oh, okay, let me see what's going on real quick.
I wish I could have. I wish Dr. Boyce Watkins was a stock, because I'd invest in him. I'd invest in Dr. Boyce Watkins. He's that dude. He's that dude, man.
Absolutely.
His school stock class is good. Latoya Tyler said, yeah, Dr. Boyce Watkins is the truth, in my opinion. I like him. He reminds me, he's a mixture of Michael Eric Dyson and Jim Cramer when it comes to that stuff,
I remember watching Jim Cramer years ago. I used to watch him, man. That was fun.
I used to watch him a lot. It kind of fell off, man. He made some, I don't know what happened.
About somebody being wrong about some stuff. Man.
Wrong, yeah.
That dude there, man. Yeah, Jim Cramer. But and I had put my son in Boyce's stock school.
Oh, good.
Got a lot out of it. So that was
I had my son in Boyce's real estate school.
Yeah, my son took that too. He took that course. Yeah. Actually, Boyce has the Black Business School.
Right. In the Black Business School, he had a real estate class.
Yeah.
And Latoya says him is wild.
Yeah, no question.
Jim is wild. Jim is wild.
Yeah, Jim is wild. Jim is a character, and you got to be careful. I don't even see him no more. You say he fell off?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't watch as much TV anymore either. So
okay,
I don't know what the brother's doing.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so our point with this is it's just there's a lot of points of view out there that you can use to construct your opinion about what's going to happen in the market. But Stu made a point that I want to go back to real quick. It's not likely that you're going to lose all your money at any given time, or that the company is going to just go belly up, especially if something on the S&P 500. So, you try to just work your way into being patient, making informed decisions, and, you'll build your strategy of how you want to go about this thing.
One of the, because I do teach the basics of stock markets, or the basic of investing. And I tell people all the time, and this is just something that I share in a class. I'm not giving you advice or anything to do, but think about companies that you use all the time. If you're a little more conservative and kind of just want to see how things go. And so, I look at companies like Colgate, Palmolive, companies that have been around for like 50 years. And when we look at those charts, you'll see that they tend to, over time, no matter what, they've increased in value over time. And I think that's what's important to me, particularly if you're going to play the long game. And so I just want to show Eric, just if I can, and just real quick, an example of that.
Okay.
You'll be able to see on the screen here. If you look at this chart for Colgate Palmolive, yeah, I'm looking at the max. Just since as long as they've been traded as a company, as long as Colgate Palmolive has been traded, you'll see that they've increased over time. And that's kind of what you're looking for. They started back in 81, so almost 40 years ago. They've always increased over time. So if you're patient enough with yourself, and if you're impatient enough with your dollars, you can find some long-term investments where you might be pretty safe. Let's think about companies that you use on a regular, that people will probably always use. And this is just an example of one of those companies where it's, relatively an affordable price for a stock. And you can see here that since they've been publicly traded, they've increased relatively well over time. We're talking about an 8,000% increase in 40 years. And so if you had a dollar, and 40 years ago, that would be, what, $856,000, if I'm not mistaken, or it'd be something like that. So just wanted to share that perspective. Just wanted to share that.
You put that up there, Stu. I think another thing I want to point out is you talked about this too when we first started talking. You can use those time frames up there to, here, this is analysis too, no matter how quick it is, but you can click through and see what was going on with the stock 1 week ago, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Those are pieces of information that you can use to make a decision. Now, I will say this, a lot of people will say this, they'll say past performance is no indicator of future, like they're basically saying like just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to be a future success. And I do think that's important to understand, but I also would say that it is a factor. It should be a factor. I mean, if somebody or a company has a track record, that should be acknowledged.
Right.
Whether the track record is good or whether the track record is bad. And then the last thing I'm going to say is there are what they call ratios that you can also use to make decisions. I'll just give an example of one, but one is the PE ratio.
Oh, price earnings. Price to
earnings. That's something that you can look at to get to make two decisions. One, people use the PE ratio to see if a company is overvalued a lot of times based on whatever the ratio is, but they also use it to make a determination on whether it's expected that the market expects this company to grow or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of the ratios, but I would encourage anybody who's trading or thinking about trading to really get a mastery over those ratios, because again, it makes it quicker. Your analysis can go very quickly if you understand some of these concepts.
And also, I think it's super important to acknowledge that when you're comparing stocks, you should be only comparing stocks from within the same industry. Don't compare this Colgate Palmolive to Tesla.
Right.
Don't, they're two different industries. Or don't compare Tesla to Nike. You have to compare, if you're going to compare, within the same industry.
Apples to apples, yeah.
Apples to apples, yeah.
And that's a good point. And I also want to bring up, and this was my burning question for this week.
Okay.
I hate a burning question, but my burning question to the audience, and even to you, Stu, is when you look into, and you've kind of answered this, but to the viewers, when you look at your portfolio of stocks and you go down them line by line and see what you have, how would you answer the question as to why? Why do I own these particular stocks? And I just want you to ask yourself that question and just kind of think about what was the rationale. Is it any of the things that we talked about today? Your buddy told you about it. You saw it on the news. It's something that you used personally. And kind of think about, is there a pattern there in terms of how you make your decisions to purchase these assets?
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Why are you purchasing?
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Why are you purchasing? All right. So, man, that brings us to almost the close of our show, man.
Yeah, man. This has gone by really quickly. I've enjoyed having this conversation with you.
You were excellent at presenting the contents. Do we have this week characters from corporate segment?
We do have a characters from corporate. Before we do that, I'm going to give you a quick shout out. And I want to let the people know, if if you're doing a podcast or you're thinking about doing a podcast with somebody, a person like Big Stu is excellent, because let me tell you something. There's a lot of technical stuff going on right now, and he makes it look very easy. You don't even understand. Like, there's a lot of moves being made. You see the screens are switching, and he's putting up the presentation. Like, I don't even know how to do that. You know what I mean? So if it was up to me, it would be real boring, because I don't know how to do any of that. You look up in the top of the screen, he's got the watermark up there. You see the frame with the cloudy thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you just want to talk about analysis. This brother did a lot of research and pulled from a lot of different experiences to make this show look the way that it does and move like it does. So thank you for that.
Man, I'm trying, brother. Thank you, brother.
No doubt. All right. So now let's jump into our characters from corporate. So if this is your first time tuning in to Money Sex Gen X, we do a segment each week, or most episodes we call Characters from Corporate. It really is kind of this tongue-in-cheek thing, in a way where we're saying, like, do you know some people in corporate that are some characters? Like they tripping, or they just really wild or funny or crazy or whatever. And we ask people to send us stories for people who might be characters from corporate. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes people ask, am I the character? So if you got a crazy story or interesting or funny story, or you just really want some feedback, send us your story and we'll read it on the show.
That's dope. That's dope.
All right, so here's our submission for this week, Characters from Corporate. This says, love the show. You guys are a breath of fresh air, for real. Okay, we appreciate that. I'm 41 years old, from Philly, and I work in a commercial real estate firm. My coworker, who is also a good friend of mine, is very enamored with what school some of our other coworkers went to. Okay. He puts people on pedestals because they went to Wharton, Harvard, or Yale. Personally, I'm more impressed if somebody went to Howard or Hampton. He told me the other day that if somebody went to an Ivy League school, that shows they're smarter. And by the way, he and I both went to regular state schools for college. Am I tripping? Or is my homeboy a character from corporate?
Wow.
So he puts people on pedestals because of what school they went to. What do you got to say about that, Big Stu?
Truth be told,
yeah.
truth be told,
Always tell the truth. So yes,
I always
sir.
tell the truth. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I wish it wasn't. It's a real thing. You depending on what school you went to, you get some extra kudos.
Okay.
You get extra kudos. You went to Stanford, you got accepted and went to Harvard, you went to Columbia, you went to Brown, you went to Emory. Oh, okay, you went to Yale, you went to Princeton. Oh, okay. All right, I see you. You went to Northwestern, you went to U of C. I see you. I see you. I see you. Yeah, it's a couple of schools that just get it, for sure. Oh, you went to Hampton. Okay, you went to Howard. Okay.
All right.
Okay, yeah, I see you. Okay, you went to Southern Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure.
So let me ask you a question though. So, and I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite when I give my response, but I want to know from you. But do you put these people on a pedestal? And I think that's what our viewer wants to know.
Not on the not.
So you sound like you
a little more. I give him a little more. I mean, I guess I'm saying I guess I do. Maybe not at the level of that other that they're saying, but I mean, hey, you went to Morehouse. I mean, I give you a little more credit. Yeah, I give him a little space. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I put him on a pedestal. Yes, I said.
Now, what I'm going to say about this is this. I remember I did a video, and I started doing these little videos about a year ago, just on different topics. And one of the videos I had was it was something about like where you went to get your master's degree or something. And in that video, I was talking about how if you go get a master's degree, you should go to a school that when you say the name, people like, yo, you went to that, you went to that school. All right, so I did that. But now what I'm going to say is a little bit different. While that is a good way to market yourself, what I know from my experiences, I've interacted with people from every school imaginable. And I know for a fact that when it comes down to raw intelligence and creativity and passion and this and that, you got some people who embody those things that went to those schools. And I've met people who absolutely did not.
Wow.
And they went to Ivy Leagues and this school and that school. Yeah. So that's my experience. It's like, it just depends on who you run into. Because guess what? And some people might get mad at me for saying this, but like, you are who you are before you went to the school.
Yeah.
We can't lose sight of that. So, that's my 2 cents on the subject.
Okay. All right.
So the viewer said, am I tripping? I don't think either one of you all are tripping, personally. I think it is what it is. People have their point of view.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think either one of y'all are tripping. It's fair. It's all fair. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't think you should be brown nosing. You shouldn't be kissing no ass just because they went to a certain school. That's for sure.
Sure.
But they still human. They still get one leg at a time. But I mean, yeah, man, you got accepted to those schools. You graduated from. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. Yeah. All right. I'll give you a little juice for sure.
Okay. That's real. Characters from corporate. So that's our segment for this week for that. And do we have a pool artist to go out on? Well, first of all, before we do that, do you have any, because I love to get these from you, have any closing thoughts before we go out of here?
Closing thoughts for today. Yeah. My closing thoughts for today is this. Stu's closing thoughts for today is, if you got a little money and you want to think about, and you're thinking about, breaking economic change for yourself, you want to get out of the poverty mindset, you want to be better about your money, you want to have some money, you want to stop claiming broke, consider investing in stocks as a way to do that. And that's really it. Just consider investing in stocks if you're serious about breaking the economic generational curses bestowed upon you and your family. That's it. That's all I got. What about you?
I will close by saying this. I hope that our presentation or our conversation was helpful. I will say this. I feel like stocks are a very efficient way to invest. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that quickly. Real estate is fantastic, right? I'm involved with real estate. I get it. But it takes more time. What I like about stocks is even if you're doing the analysis and all these other things that we're talking about doing, you can invest very quickly. That can be a bad thing, but for those who are doing the analysis, that's a great thing because you can get to the returns that you're looking for potentially a lot faster than you could with other assets. So I wanted you to look at it as an efficient, potentially, depending on how you approach it, way to invest.
Dope. Yep. That's dope, brother. That's dope, brother. Okay. So yeah, man. Great show. We're approaching upon the 2 hours. I'm getting the dirty looks from my production team.
I didn't realize we went that far over. Wow. Yeah, we're really out there. Okay. Yeah.
But I do want to introduce us to a young lady who is from a group called she's one half of the group Not Them.
Oh yeah, I've seen them on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, and her name is P. Marie. But she has an album that she just dropped right before Christmas. So I'm just I don't even know which song this is gonna be, but I'm just gonna play something because all of the songs are dope. This one is called, I'm just gonna go for Teach the Babies. Hopefully you can hear it. Teach the Babies from P. Marie of Not Them. Can you hear that?
It's low, but I can hear
it. They don't want to see us survive. Doing my best to stay alive. Tussling up against the ties. Struggling, but I'll be alright. Staying focused between the lines. Praying against committing crimes. The devil plays an idle mind. So I stay busy and hard to find. Many blind and they lost their mind. Don't look back, keep ahead of time. Ain't no stores in my neighborhood. And kids grow up with no childhood. Bang poppin', stuck in the cage. Pill poppin', stuck in the days. Teach the babies, it's all a craze. Purple drinking some lemonade. They don't want us to hide kids. They just want to see how I live. They don't want us to hide kids. They just want to see how I live. Teach the babies, 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 teach the babies. They don't want us to hide kids. They just want to see how I live. They all just want to profit. They all just want to profit. Teach the babies.
They can hear the rest of that on Fool. Teach the Babies by P. Marie. That's what that is, brother.
I like the energy on that one. Definitely. Yeah, man.
And West Side of Chicago in the building, man.
West Side. Thank you for introducing us to these artists, man. And yeah, get on over to musicspool.com. You will be pleasantly, I don't even want to say surprised. You will be pleasantly invigorated.
Indeed.
If you like new artists and you want quality music, go to musicspool.com.
Indeed, brother. All right.
Been one. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 2 of season 3. We will be back next week with another engaging topic, and we will talk to you all then.
Until next time, everybody. Peace.